Okay, welcome to another edition, folks, of Shan Stratton Live. It looks like we are live now, and I welcome each and every one of you. Guys, I'm truly honored, excited to do these every single Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We do a live webinar of either a live Kangen Water demonstration. Changes our life. I mean, the Kangen Water technology is truly life-changing. Did that last week. But every Tuesday night, the whole reason we launched Shan Stratton Live was so that we could really allow an opportunity for people all around the world to log in and to see, and they don't even log in, you go to shanstrattonlive.com, but to see either a live Kangen Water demonstration or have that opportunity to learn some of the principles on how to live a more alkalizing lifestyle. My name is Shan Stratton. I'm the owner of Core Health Products, and our mission statement at Core Health Products is to enhance and enrich that quality of life for millions of people worldwide by providing the products, the services, and the education required to allow for an alkalizing and healthy lifestyle. It's the education part of that mission statement that drove us to do these live webinars every Tuesday night. And at first we were wondering what kind of response we would get. You just never really know. But folks, I'm extremely proud and truly humbled at the fact that we are just hitting our 2-month mark. And over the past 2 months, we have had over 55,000 views. And that truly is just humbling. It's the information that is being shared. It's not me, it's not the presenter, it's the information that I get to share with each and every one of you to then take and share with your friends and family members or colleagues or clients or customers or members or whatever the case might be. 55,000 different opportunities to share with people how we can change that landscape of healthcare as we know it in America today. Folks, I hope that none of you watching here is okay with the direction we're heading based on the statistics regarding health and healthcare, at least in America, but across the world. There's more sickness, there's more illness, there's more bacteria, there's more disease, there's more than ever before in history, and I think you would agree with me on that. We can't continue to do the same thing over and over and think that it's going to get better if we don't make change. Heard me speak across the country. You know one of my favorite phrases. If we continue to do today the same things that we did yesterday, we're going to have the same problems tomorrow that we have today. I believe we have some serious problems regarding health. It's not right that we are seeing heart disease continuing to rise. I don't believe that it's right that we continue to see diseases like cancer and diabetes and MS and all those various different diseases continue to get worse and worse with everything that we have at our fingertips to make it better and to make it right. I and my company at Core Health Products believe that the answer is go back to the very basics of nature. Get back to how God intended our foods to be consumed. Now tonight, our topic is good fats burn bad fats. And it's been interesting over the past week, once we launched that is our next week's topic about a week ago, we got a lot of different emails from people saying, what do you mean good fats burn bad fats? Let's start right off the bat by pointing out and helping people understand that, well, you don't need help understanding that fat really has a bad connotation. When we hear the word fat, instantly there's a negative thought that goes to it almost always. Fat means overweight. Fat means increased cardiovascular risk. Fat means whatever the case may be, it's usually a negative connotation. Be very, very clear that fat is vital to the normal functioning of the human body. Fat is a key factor in balancing your health. Folks, you cannot be fully healthy without adequate amounts of fat. Fat is that important to us. Now, yes, there are various types and forms of fat, and for the sake of discussion and for ease of discussion, most people kind of say, well, there's good fat and there's bad fat. Now, I want to take one of the sources of fat, the trans fats. Those fats I want to take out of the discussion. I don't want to hear another word about them tonight because they're horrible, they're man-made, there is not one study that supports it being health promoting. In fact, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, that show trans fats decrease health. They cause us to reduce our ability to live the way that we should live, which is a state of balance or homeostasis. So let's take trans fats completely out. Once we've taken those out, there are really only a couple of other types. There are what we refer to as saturated fat. That is seen as the bad fats. There is monounsaturated fats, which they're kind of in the middle. And then there are polyunsaturated fats. And those are fats that are usually from the green leafy vegetables and the good fish and things like that. In fact, omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, so those three types of fats, and again, for the sake of ease, often people say bad fats and good fats. Well, I want to make a statement right here that as soon as I make it, there's going to be some pushback and some people saying, oh, you can't say that. That's horribly wrong. Folks, I don't believe that any of those three forms of fat are bad. I don't believe that saturated fat is bad. Undigested saturated fats might be killing us though. Once fat, regardless of saturated, monounsaturated, which means it just has minimal amounts of hydrogen into it or saturated into it, and then polyunsaturated, which means it has no hydrogen infused into it, regardless of any of those three, if and when those fats are completely broken down, digested into a form that the body can recognize as a fuel, that fat, regardless of saturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, regardless of source, no longer is a huge health risk. In fact, it can be promoting of good energy. Now, why do I say that? Because fats are a source of energy. In fact, some experts say that upwards of around 60% of our daily expenditure of energy should come from our fats. That's more than half of our energy. Fats provide a great source of energy, but only when it's digested down into a usable, burnable, recognizable form of fuel or fat. Now, many of you have heard me go over this before, but I want to go into a little bit more detail. When we have fat, understand that it is an accumulation of multiple pieces that make what we refer to as fat. Again, whether poly, mono, or saturated, okay, it is an accumulation of multiple fatty acids come together to create this fat. And depending upon the amount of hydrogen atoms, that's what makes it either saturated, unsaturated, whatever. We'll go into that in a minute, okay? But all those forms of fat are pieces that make a whole. And until that whole is broken back out into those pieces, the body can't use it. I often say the body can't use fat. The body can't use protein, and the body cannot use carbohydrates. Those nutrients broken down, the body thrives on. Here's my analogy. Many of you have heard this analogy, but again, we have thousands of people from all across the world and all different languages and all different countries. So here is the analogy, and I hope that you can understand and visualize what I'm talking about. If we were to dig down in the earth, drill down into the earth, deep down into the earth, and we could bring oil back up to the surface. Now we know that oil is very valuable. It's a valued commodity. Things is we can take that oil, we can process it or break it down into gasoline, and then we can take that gasoline, we can put it into our car, and great source of energy. In fact, it's the primary source of energy, and it drives that car. It powers that car to go and go and go and go at various different powers. That analogy is interesting when you say that if that car runs out of gas, can we then just go back and find some of that oil and put that oil in the gas tank? Of course not. Now you and I both know that if we were to take a car and put raw oil in that gas tank, it's going to cause problems. It's going to clog the lines. It's going to cause the car to smoke. It's going to cause lights and signals and symptoms and different things to go off saying, something's wrong with my engine, with this car, it's not working right. It's going to cause problems. If we were to take that analogy and apply it to our bodies in relation to fats, you can apply the same analogy to carbohydrates and protein, but we're going to do it to fats. If we take fat that is accumulation of all these different parts of fatty acids, we have this fat and we consume it. The body says, okay, I don't recognize that yet. It's in the form of oil, so to speak. And until that fat is broken all the way down into its individual little pieces of burnable, recognizable forms of fuel or gasoline, so to speak, then I can't use it. So it doesn't mean that the fat being consumed is bad. It means that until that fat is processed down into a burnable form like that oil was, then when we take fat into our body, we're going to have those same symptoms and problems that the car does when we were to put oil in that. Doesn't mean that the oil is bad. Doesn't mean that, oh, that's horrible stuff. It's valued. It's one of the most important valued commodities on the earth. When we consume fat, it's valued. One of the most valued commodities or nutrients that we ever consume because it's high in energy and burnable forms of fuel only when it is broken down into the proper form. So I hope you're starting to see with me for a minute that fat is not bad. Not even bad fat is bad if and when it is digested and broken down. And how do we do that? It's with the presence of enzymes. Each and every nutrient, whether it's a carbohydrate, whether it's a protein, whether it's a fat, each and every nutrient have what's called substrate-specific enzymes. Substrate meaning, let's just say food. Food-specific enzymes. Fat requires a very special certain set and subset of enzymes that break that down, that fat down into a form of usable energy. Now, it's very easily marketed by many companies out there as lipase. Lipase is the enzyme that digests fat. Common phrase, I see it all across the industry, but folks, please do not get lured into that easy statement because that is just a tip of the iceberg. And what I mean by that is lipase and other cofactors needed for that process of breaking fats into a usable form of burnable energy. So you cannot just purchase what the industry is marketing as fat digesters and it has lipase in it. There are, for instance, lipase cannot even function without calcium. So if I were to take lipase to digest fat, but I didn't take calcium with it, the body's going to say, that's great, got a lot of fat to digest here, but I can't work without calcium and without certain vitamins, vitamin B and so on. So for that lipase enzyme to work, it has to start robbing calcium for it to even activate. Now think about it. For us to process oil into gasoline, there are many different pieces to that process. That's no different than when we consume fats. When we consume fats, there are many different pieces, enzymes, coenzymes, cofactors such as calcium and other minerals and other vitamins required for that process to take place. And if they're not present, then that fat will not be completely broken down. At that point, the body says, I don't recognize it, therefore I'm just going to take it and store it. I'm going to pack it away and store it in other places. Now, why would that be? And this is going to take us back to the demonstration that I did last week. Okay, again, if you missed the presentation last week, go to your EWS account. They have a new replay on there where you can show a replay of last week. It's a fantastic tool. If you don't have an EWS account, you need to look into it. It's a great marketing tool. But you can also go to Shan Stratton Live. You can go to the live stream account. And last week I talked about how we have a technology, Kangen Water, that puts large amounts of hydrogen in our water. Now wait a minute, if we're putting large amounts of hydrogen or allowing large amounts of usable element or molecular hydrogen, wouldn't that be the same thing as hydrogenated fats? Except in this case it's saturated water? Well, we know that saturated water, and I say that because we say saturated fat is bad. Saturated water is good. The difference is saturated water has hydrogen and it's in a form that the body can utilize. That form of hydrogen coming out of our Kangen Water technology is in a form that hydrogen can instantaneously create ATP, which is energy, can instantaneously provide us with all the building blocks that we need for things like respiratory. Hydrogen is mandatory for digestion. Hydrogen is required for the healing and process, or the healing process to take place. Hydrogen is that vital, yet when we have that large quantity of saturated hydrogen in a food, we instantly, without consideration, say, ooh, that's bad. See, there's the difference. Those fats, especially the saturated fats, have this element of hydrogen that when consumed, the body says, wow, that's a great source of energy. I want to have that, but I can't use it right now, so let's store it because it's not in a form that I can utilize that hydrogen. I can't utilize those fatty acids, so let's store it in hopes that someday we can. As soon as we take those saturated molecules, those saturated fats, and break them down into their individual components of fatty acids, glycine, glucose, hydrogen. Once we break them all out into the pieces, the body is able to use those as fuel and as all forms of other building blocks within the body. Now, another point I want to make, and we wrap all of this up, and you're going to see exactly why good fats burn bad fats. But another point I want to make is that lipase, remember lipase is that enzyme that digests fat, that enzyme along with the other fat digesting coenzymes, those enzymes are very pH specific. And interestingly, they work most efficiently and almost exclusively at the highest rate in a higher pH or a more alkaline pH. So as we provide the body with the Kangen Water technology that creates an alkaline, hydrogen saturated water, as soon as we consume that, we are able to increase the activity levels of our fat digesting enzymes. So many of you that are sitting there watching this webinar right now that have said, yeah, I experienced great weight reduction when I started drinking Kangen water. I know many of you have. And there's testimony after testimony that's sent in to us that I started drinking hydrogen-saturated water, electrically reduced water, alkaline water, whatever you want to refer to it as, and I started dropping weight. So much of that is because of multiple factors. One is we create a pH that allows our fat-digesting enzymes to be more effective, be able to digest many and more of those fats down into their recognizable, usable, burnable forms, so our energy goes up, we burn more calories, our weight goes down. First and most important step in reducing body weight and body fat is changing the pH of your body. Best way of doing that, as you've seen from my past webinars, is to change that largest component of your body, which is water. Change it from acidic bottled waters, reverse osmosis waters, filtered waters, tap waters, carbonated drinks. Change it from those liquids to our Kangen water, electrically reduced, saturated with so many different ways. So I hope that you're starting to see, again, there are a couple other points I want to make here. I hope that you're starting to see, though, how regardless of the fat, good or bad by industry labels, they're not bad when they are digested. So some people emailed over the week and said, wait a minute, you're saying that saturated fats have a lot of hydrogen, but you said last week that hydrogen was good, so are you saying that eating a lot of saturated fat is good? Let me tell you why saturated fat has been labeled as bad and why saturated fat does in fact cause increased risk of cardiovascular disease. And saturated fat does in fact increase cholesterol count. And saturated fat does in fact increase inflammation. So wait a minute. How am I getting from all of that, from saturated fat, to it actually being or can be good? In almost every single case, saturated fat, in most cases, not all cases, in almost every case, saturated fat is in a cooked or processed form, which means there are no enzymes to digest that saturated fat down into a form, to release that hydrogen for the body to utilize. Coconut oil. It's becoming one of the great miracles out there. Coconut oil reduces cholesterol. Coconut oil is one of the greatest forms of fat. Coconut oil should be used for all these different things. We're just seeing coconut oil be this great miraculous thing. Well, guess what? It's super saturated. So how can it be good? What's the difference? Coconut oil is in a raw form. Avocados are saturated, have a lot of saturated fat. Guess what? When I have clients that we need to drop body fat, one of the first things I have them do is increase their intake of avocados, of raw nuts, of coconut oil. Why? Because those are forms of fat that are saturated with hydrogen that is valuable to the body, but it has the enzymes to break that down into a form that the body can utilize and thrive off of. So here's the scenario when the common saturated fat comes into our bodies. When we consume, it comes in, the body looks at it and it says, wow, there's a lot of hydrogen there. In fact, there's much more hydrogen, significantly more hydrogen in that saturated fat than there is in protein or carbohydrates. So I know that I can use that someday, but right now it's in an undigested form. Therefore, my body says, I'm going to take that and I'm going to store it over here because someday I'm going to break that down. Someday I'm going to get access to all those valuable nutrients in there. And more saturated fat comes in, and the body just keeps storing it here and there and everywhere. And now we start having micromolecules of fat circulating throughout the bloodstream. We see that as cholesterol. Cholesterol starts to go up. Yes, it does increase our risks when it's bad cholesterol. Okay, when it's LDL form of cholesterol. So we see that as a risk, but it's nothing more than undigested particles of fat. We have to understand that the increasing the digestion of those fats are vital. Here's my analogy for that, and I used it last week as well. I know we have a lot more people this week that didn't see last week, so here's my analogy for that. Let's say you're a weekend gold miner, okay? You like to go out on the weekends and just go out and have fun, and all of a sudden, let's say you start finding these larger boulders about this big around, and you can see tiny little flakes of gold. I mean, hardly any, but there's a little bit in there. And so as that gold miner, you get excited and you start thinking, boy, if I can somehow learn how to really get and break this down, I can get those flakes of gold. So you start taking these boulders back home, and each weekend you bring a few more home. And you say, honey, we don't have access to that gold yet, but we can't just throw it away. It could be a lot of money if I accumulate enough of it. So I'm gonna put it in the garage. And the garage starts to fill up, and you bring some more home, and you say, I'm gonna put it in the guest bedroom. And the guest bedroom starts to fill up, and wife is saying, you got to get rid of some of this excess weight around here. And you're saying, no, there's great stuff inside those boulders, and someday we're going to have access to that. I'm going to learn how to break those down and get access to that. And so you keep bringing it home and you keep packing it away. Just like fat in our body, when our body says there's great nutrient, that fat has the greatest source of energy of anything, so I'm going to hold on to it because someday. Now in that analogy, say a few years down the road, you have a friend that comes to you and you haven't seen for many years, and he says, gosh, it's good to see you, and guess what? I'm a gold miner, and we have gold. Oh, we have so much gold, and I've just opened a shop down the road there, and if you want to come in fact, I'm going to sell you gold at half price because I'm a good friend of yours. And all of a sudden you have access to all of this gold. You have access to easy half-price gold. And he starts showing you these tips on how you can really take advantage of all this stuff. Now all of a sudden you come back home and you say, honey, I don't think I need all this gold around here. In fact, it's going to be more work than it is value because those little tiny flakes are there, and we have a better source and better access. And so you start releasing. You start letting those boulders go. You start throwing them out or taking them back down there. Same scenario, guys. When we're consuming fats that have great sources of energy, but in an undigested form, the body can't burn it. And so it stores it. So how do we increase the burning of that fat? You have to increase the digestion of it. First and foremost, get that pH right. Get that alkaline water in your body. Get that Kangen water in your body. Change that largest component. Get that pH in a form that the lipase enzymes and the other fat digesting enzymes can function and start breaking those fats down and using them. Secondly, you have to increase your ingestion of those raw forms of good fats. Avocado, sushi, raw fish, okay? They actually say that if you're not consuming at least a minimum of 3 servings, three times a week, 3 full servings of good omega-3 rich fatty acids, okay, fish, then you're not getting enough to support brain function, protection of the nervous system, and other things like that. So if you're not consuming fish that often, you have to consider things like the core EFAs. The core EFA is specifically omega-3 fatty acids, which are the primary forms of fatty acids utilized for brain growth, brain function, the protecting of the nervous system, the communication of our nervous system, the communication of our brain to our legs and our arms and so on. Essential fatty acids in omega-3. You don't need supplemental 6s and 9s. You get plenty of it. You need significantly higher quantities of omega-3 fatty acids. Okay? And you can get that from raw fish, but you can also get it from things like coconut oil and avocado. But if you're not eating that a lot, supplement with it. Third thing is you have to increase the digestion of those fats. So how do good fats burn bad fats? When you consume good fats, like I've mentioned, coconut oil, avocados, raw nuts, raw fish, sushi, things like mackerel, things like good fish, tuna, salmon, those types, sardine, those types of fatty fish are rich in omega-3. But what's the common denominator? They're all raw. They all have enzymes in them to digest those fats. So when you're consuming increased quantity of fat digesting enzymes in those raw fats, now you have those fats internally from those good forms of fat, from the greens, the green leafy vegetables and those types of things, and the others that I mentioned. Those enzymes can start digesting the fat on your body. I have my clients, if they're trying to lose weight, up your avocados, up your intake of good fats, up your intake of raw nuts, up your intake of fish, raw forms of good raw fish, up your intake of those oils that I talk about, okay? Anything you can do to increase your ingestion of fat digesting enzymes. We call ours heart health. Heart health was formulated specifically to function hand in hand with enhanced or improved alkaline water, Kangen water. So all of the enzymes and the factors and cofactors needed to increase that digestion of your fat internally, whether that fat be on your stomach, on your hips, circulating in the bloodstream, whether that fat is used as insulation around the organs in the body, whatever it is, you have to increase the digestion or the breakdown of those fats before the body can use it. It's honestly that simple. Increase your fat intake, increase your fat digesting enzymes, increase your green leafy vegetables, which provide a great increase in both alkalinity. Our core greens was formulated to alkalize the body, but it's also a great raw source of usable forms of fat. And then also, finally, the Core Health Pack. The Core Health Pack has all of those digestive enzymes, not only for your fats, but your proteins and your carbohydrates and so on. But the best, most important step you need to take right now is finding access to alkaline, ionized, hydrogen-rich water. And that can be through anybody that invited you to this. If you just come across my website or you're one of our customers, you can find more information on our website, corehealthproducts.com, wherever and whatever it is that you need access to it. If someone, make sure you get back with them and ask them about the alkaline water. What do they know about it? They will be happy to provide you with some samples, with however much you probably wanted, and all the information that you wanted as well. So in closing, I want to make sure that everyone understands. Change that water, allow those enzymes to function better, increase your ingestion of fat digesting enzymes, a broad blend of them, and increase your ingestion of good fatty acids, good healthy fats, okay, from, again, fish or whatever, all those things that we went over, the water, all of those kinds of things, that's when you're going to start noticing a dramatic reduction. Folks, I don't have time to read the testimonials that we have, but we have testimony after testimony after testimony of people simply changing their ability to digest, not burn, digest those fats, which increases the ability to burn those fats. My dad is one of them. So honored to say that we were able to get my dad's cholesterol back down very quickly. We grew up on a ranch in northern Arizona, so he grew up eating all those kinds of things that might be considered bad, but as soon as we increase the digestion of them, they're no longer bad. Folks, again, it's an honor that you would invite me into your home from places and locations all around the world. on behalf of my entire family, my wife, my 3 children, our entire company here at Core Health Products, we appreciate the opportunity to share what we believe and what we know has worked with many, many people. We hope that it's been of benefit to you tonight and that you've learned something. If there's any questions that I or my staff can answer, feel free to email us at info, that's I-N-F-O, at corehealthproducts.com. We'll be happy to make sure that you get whatever information you need so that you can truly enhance and or enrich the quality of your life by looking at and listening to the education and the products and the different things that we have. Again, I thank you. If you are involved with Kangen Water, I would invite you to make sure and take a look at the EWS, Enagic Web Systems. We've been able to do some partnering deals where I do the demonstration. Great source for you to learn how to share our information, our technology, our water, and really improve and enhance the quality of people's lives. So thank you again for inviting us into your home tonight. Again, my name is Shan Stratton. It was an honor to share with you this night. God bless you all. I look forward to seeing you soon, sometime out across the country. God bless and good night. We off?